7 reasons why hiring managers say yes to somebody and why somebody isn't successful. Decisions are made fast.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a lost art.
Your human skills are your secret weapon.
I had the most perfect candidate interview for a role. However, she struggled to articulate that and get that across. But by holding back and not wanting to sell herself, she wasn't able to instill that confidence.
Today, we're going to talk about the real reasons why people get hired. Welcome back to another episode of the Career Confidence Podcast with myself, Georgie Hubbard. And it's been a while, but she's back on the mic with me. Pam, amazing to have you back sat beside me.
Oh, I know it's so good to have you back in Melbourne town, but I'm really excited to have another chat. Always love getting on the podcast sofa.
Well, we are doing this from a different location because, as everyone knows who listens to this podcast on a regular basis, I've moved back to Melbourne CBD, which is bittersweet. Sweet in the fact that it's a new environment, new season of my life I'm going into with the book and things, but bitter in that I'm not around the corner from you anymore in Torquay. So like it was a heart and a head decision. Like my heart was like, I didn't want to be away from you in Torquay, but my head was like, you need to do this. You need to be closer to the action again with everything that you've got coming up. So I miss you day to day, I have to say. It's been, it's been a crazy sort of few months. So just, should we get everyone up to speed? So obviously I'm in the city now. You're still living in Torquay.
I am still in Torquay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You had an amazing holiday. You went back to Scotland.
Yep.
Because it was your, can I say, your birthday?
Oh yeah, go on.
40, the big 40.
Go on.
Looking fabulous.
Yeah.
On a day over 20.
Yeah. No, I know it's been... do you know what? It's been like a really fast 12 weeks as well, hasn't it, since you've been away? It almost feels like I've blinked, but I think because I was away for that couple of weeks on that big trip, it sort of made it go at pace as well. But yeah, honestly, we had a really big trip this year because not only did my husband and I both turn 40, whoa, Botox and grey hairs, it was also our 10th wedding anniversary as well, which was really special. And then in the mix of that, when the time that we were back, it was also both our daughters' birthdays landed in amongst the trip as well. So it was celebration stacked on celebration and celebration and celebration. It was just a really special trip. We did a couple of weeks back in Scotland. The grandparents got to spend a birthday with the girls, which was amazing. My parents looked after the girls to allow Jamie and I to spend and celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary in Paris, and we had an accidental trip to Amsterdam because air traffic control decided to go on strike. So that was like a little bit chaotic, but it worked out wonderfully. We just had the best time. We had so much fun together as well, and it was just so good to have that time child free, which we don't really get when we're in Australia. Obviously we're not around family, so we don't really get a break from the girls a lot. So it was really, really special. And then just like going to Europe, it'd been such a long time since we'd holidayed outside Australia and like sort of Bali, like, you know, that's where we would usually go on our family holidays. And just getting to Europe and just immersing yourself in a different culture, different ways of life, and just complete switch off because you're on the other side of the world. You actually do get the time to completely switch off because there's nothing you can do. You're in a completely different time zone. But beautifully, that's with the size that the business is at the moment. I would not be able to do that without you stepping up and saying, Pam, do not get Wi-Fi, do not check your emails, everything's getting redirected. And I'm so grateful for having you in a business partner, because without that, I would not have been able to afford myself that kind of space and that time to just completely switch off. And honestly, I just felt my brain completely decompress, and I was able to just settle right into the moment and just soak it all up. And it was incredible. It was a really, really fantastic month, and it made me feel refreshed and re-energized for entering a new decade. So it was huge.
Yeah. And you know what? I just think it's just so important to pause, because turning 40 it's a big birthday.
It is.
And it's just so easy just to blink and let it go by. But I'm really pleased you did what you did, because look, I mean, it's not what this podcast is about. We'll definitely get into the topic of today's conversation, but I always think it's good to sort of get everyone up to speed. But I think it's been a really big 8 years for us in our business journey together. And I think that it's just wonderful that after 8 years that you now can take that sort of mental break. And I think it's so, so important as well. And because we do have family the other side of the world, it's like, to make it worth it, you want to go for that little bit extra time to see everyone and things. So I'm really pleased that you did that. And obviously while you were in Scotland and Europe, I was up in Queensland, wasn't on a holiday, but was just sort of taking the time to finish my book up there in a bit more of a creative, warm environment, which was awesome. And then, got back to Melbourne about a week ago and moved into the city apartment. So that's kind of everyone up to speed really, but it's been a great few months, and like you, I feel refreshed and re-energized, and almost like it's had like a reset before the new year. Like I feel like so many people wait until the new year to have that reset, but actually it's great to do it just before the end of the year, because I'd never want to get to the end of the year and just be completely exhausted. And I've done that so many times before. And then you get to Christmas and you don't feel you got the energy and stuff. So it's been, it's not lost on me, but it has been a really like up and down 8 years. And I think like moments like this, just to pause and reflect and take some time is incredibly important. So great to have
Talking about taking moments to reflect, before we actually move on to the topic of today, could you give us a quick fire update of where your book is at and just tell everyone what they can expect?
So I will get my author copies this week. So that's going to be really exciting, probably extremely surreal. So it's about now, where are we? We're beginning of October. So we are about 60 days away from it officially being available to buy. It's available for pre-sale now, and beautifully, there's been a lot of support on the pre-sale as well, which actually is just really, really important. I didn't realize how important pre-sales were, but it's just wonderful to see people jump on it and obviously want the book. And it's been amazing. It's been a massive, massive journey, and that will be probably a whole episode on itself that, we can talk about, and happy to share the full journey, but we're not far away. So it's been a lot of work to get to this point, and I'm under no illusion that the next 3 to 6 months while the book is still in pre-sale and then launches is going to be even more probably intense, but I'm here for it. It's really, really important. The book has been a labor of love for me, and I feel like now is the time for people to really think about their future and their careers and how they can stay ahead, which is, again, why we do this podcast, to help people and to make sure that people are staying ahead and ready for what's to come. So today we're obviously going to talk about the real reasons why people get hired. Like, I did a post on this on my LinkedIn last week, and I always know when something's really sort of hitting home, because you'll get a few more likes and shares and comments and people reach out to me. So this was clearly something that people were like, oh, I didn't know this information. So today we're going to talk about like 7 insights that we believe is what really, really matters when you're in an interview, and actually what will get you the offer. So I think so many people think that just skills alone or a great resume will get them the offer, and it's just not the case, as we know. So goodness, 20 years combined recruitment experience now, you and I, over that? No 30?
Because I'm 19 by myself.
So over 30 years combined recruitment experience, we've seen it all, right? We want to give like behind the scenes today of like the actual 7 reasons why hiring managers say yes to somebody and why somebody perhaps isn't successful. So we're going to break them all down. But the first thing I just want to say is that your skills on your CV alone are not going to get you the job. There's so many more things that go into it, and so many more things that you need to think about. And I don't want this to be overwhelming for people. I really want this to be practical for people. But the most frustrating thing for you and I is when we see a great resume, speak to the candidate, and we just go, yes, placement. This person is fantastic. Let's get them into process. And then when it comes to the interview, they'll fall down on one of these 7 things. So the first thing that I think people don't realize is how decisions are made fast. You haven't got long to make a first impression. Like, it is so important to think about how you are putting yourself forward for an interview, how you're showing up, the energy that you bring into the room, how those first interactions with the hiring managers, like, they really, really do matter. Like, we've interviewed people for our own business before, right? And we know probably within the first 60 seconds, you just get a feeling, don't you? So you obviously have been on both sides of the fence as well. Like, where do you sort of like see people go wrong in like the first 5 minutes of the interview? Like, any sort of things that we could really sort of share to help people stop making this mistake and really think, okay, how am I going to make the first impression really count?
Yeah. Look, I think the first issue that we could maybe really counter straight off is that people get overly nervous when they're getting into interviews and they end up not acting like an authentic version of themselves. Mm-hmm. A hiring manager in an organization want to hire the authentic version of you because that's who they're going to get, right? You can't put a front on for the next 3 to 5 years of your life, right? So just remember that when you're going into an interview, you're going in for a conversation. This is a two-way street, right? You need to make sure that there's a right blend between like sort of personalities, culture, skills, experience that you're going to be able to add value. So yes, of course, are you going to be questioned on your skills, experience, and your capabilities? Absolutely. But it's also an opportunity for you to find out more about the people in the panel that are interviewing you and the organisation. So it's a two-way street. And I think like that's really important to neutralise the situation, to sort of unravel some of the anxieties that people can get in the lead up to an interview that can make them act overly nervous or a little bit rattled going into an interview situation, because that can really sort of mess with your mindset and stop you from being able to sort of show up in an authentic way and be overly nervous, because it actually stops you from being able to sort of answer questions, stops your brain from able to like, you know, think back and provide really good answers to the questions that are being fielded to you. So firstly, I think genuinely unwinding that and actually thinking, do you know what I'm going into here is a session with a couple of people. This is a conversation, and this is an opportunity for me to talk about my skills and experience. You might be asked things that you don't know. That's okay. Welcome that. Don't get overly nervous and think, oh my God. It's okay. No one has got experience and exposure on everything in any one role. That's why we all want to change careers, because we want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to gain new skills. So just unraveling that, like it's a two-way conversation. Don't get overly nervous, don't get overly anxious. And secondly, don't worry about not being able to answer everything. It's perfectly normal. You just say, I actually don't have experience to that, and be curious, be inquisitive. Say, could you actually tell me a little bit more about, how big a part that this is actually going to play in the role? Like, how much time would I have to get up to speed with that? Would you offer any training around me getting from where I am to where I need to be in that aspect of the role? So if there's anything that you're not able to do, welcome that. Be inviting, be open. Don't let it scare you and shut you down. I think like that's some really good pointers for people going into interview scenarios to allow you to be able to go into a situation without anxieties and with an open and curious mindset.
Yeah. And I think the final point I'll make is that the reason why people get nervous is because they're not prepared enough. So do your research before you go into the interview, and remember, like, the hiring manager's seen something in you. Like, they're not just interviewing for the sake of their health. They're interviewing you because they have seen something within your resume, or the recruiter's really done a great sales job and sold you into the company. Put your best foot forward. Go in prepared, go in research, like use the mirror, like practice answering some standard interview questions, even use ChatGPT to give you feedback on your answers. Like, when a common question someone's going to ask you is, hey, Pam, tell me about yourself, right? Have the answer nailed in a minute. Right, don't ramble. Don't go back to your years in A-levels and what your favorite subject was. No one cares about that. Keep it relevant. Keep it relatable to the job at hand. But decisions are made fast, so first impressions count. So go in prepared and ready, because you deserve to be there. The hiring manager wants you to do well. They do really want you to do well. And the more prepared you can be, the less nervous you're going to be. So that's the first thing. Decisions are made fast. So think about how you want to present yourself and really have your answers thought about in terms of like, why should someone hire you and why you want the role as well, and just be really, really researched. The second piece that I would say that people don't realize is you're being assessed outside the room. And what I mean by this is how you greet the receptionist, how you sit in the waiting room, how you first get up and shake the hiring manager's hand. All of these things really, really count. How you dress, how you present yourselves. Like, the interview starts the moment you step into the building, right? Like that is really, really important. And it's just so subtle. It's just so subtle. But I think back to the time when we've been in reception areas and watched because he or she's about to have an interview. And you can tell the people that are nervous, and you can tell the people who are clearly there, really prepared, and the people that are nervous are sort of picking things up and maybe a bit distracted, like maybe they're checking their phone or something. Like, just ground yourself. Like, just go in, smile, like think about how you're holding yourself, the conversation you're having with the receptionist or anyone that greets you. Like, all of these things, they really, really matter. They really, really matter.
They really do. And you know, that just took me back to, you're going to recall this when I actually say it out loud, but one of our clients, we had a candidate interview with one of our clients, perfectly nice individual, skills, experience, absolutely ticked, seemed really nice when, you know, we caught up for a coffee, went to interview with the client, and unbeknownst to him, he was mildly dismissive to someone on walking into the building, and did not realise that he was in the lift with the CFO.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And the CFO walked in with them and walked straight through to the head of HR and asked if this individual was interviewing for a role within that business, explained the situation, and it was not in line with the company's core values and would not be someone that they wanted to have, as they would not live and breathe the culture that they have in the organisation.
Case in point, you are assessed outside of the room, who you live with, who you're in the corridors with, how you smile at people walking into the interview room. It all matters. It all gets noticed, right? It's like an energy that you give off. So be super aware of how you're holding yourself and how you're communicating with people around you and in the building, because you never know who you're stood next to, right? Third point I want to make is, and you've kind of just touched upon it, cultural add outweighs skills, right? You could have every single skill on a job description, but if you're not a right add or fit for the company, you're not going to get the role. And this works both ways as well, right? Like, before you go into the interview, do your research on, like, what does this company stand for? What are the values that this company has, right? And try and really think about, okay, how does this company's value align with my values? Right? Like honesty, integrity, innovation, creativity, like whatever the values are, does that align with what you want? And on the flip side, if you're somebody that really values maybe balance or, a bit more freedom and stability, maybe joining a startup, for example, isn't the right culture for you right now. Maybe you're better off working in a bigger organization where there's more stability and more sort of, I guess, clear pathways forward. But if you're somebody that wants a bit more innovation, a fast-paced and things, like maybe that sort of like new, fresh culture will be really appealing. But I think people don't think about this enough. And I think it all starts with a bit of clarity around, what does your next career move look like? Do you want to go more corporate? Do you want to go more startup? Do you want to go more agency? Like, where are you best placed for this season of your life? But I don't think this gets thought about enough when people go in for interviews.
I completely agree with you. It's actually one that's massively overlooked. And again, we've spoke about this in so many previous podcasts, the importance of understanding yourself and your own core values at the point of life and the season of life that you're in.
100%.
Because that has to match the culture and the organisation that you choose to be a part of for the next step in your career. It is so important. And if I just like reflect on like a personal journey, the first organisation that I worked with was so big on fun, celebrations, client entertaining, company nights out. That was perfect for me, age 20 to 27. But would that be the right organisation for me to work for now? Absolutely not. It would be so wrong. I cannot deny that they are a phenomenal organisation. They train, they upskill, they have got so much going for them as an organisation, but they wouldn't be right for me right now. So there's no right and wrong. Every organisation does have a different set of core values. They have different ways of operating. They do have different cultures, but you have to be clear on what the right culture is for you, right now. Otherwise, you could be at risk of making a massive mistake. So I completely agree. It's overlooked. Sometimes people get themselves in a position where they actually need to secure a job so quickly that they want the job, they want to interview, they want to get the job, and then they get it and they land somewhere that is not aligned with where they're at in their lives. So I think it's a really important and valid point that you've made there. And I think it's one that's really important to get through to the market.
Yeah. And there was a situation, this was going back a couple of years ago now, where this particular individual said to me that they really wanted to step up into a leadership role. And we got chatting, and it turned out that this person also just had a young child, so a baby at home. And this organization was an organization that went back to the office 5 days a week, right? Now, there was no denying it was a fantastic role. More money, sort of a great title and all these things, right? Anyway, long story short, when they got the job offer and they saw the contract, they were so put off because it was basically saying in black and white, 5 days in office, we work these hours, these are our expectations as a leader, this is what we expect from a leadership team. Like, they might be outside of core business hours, expectations. And basically this individual turned around and said, I can't accept this. And it was just such this moment where this is what happens, right? When you don't get first and foremost clear on what is important to you in that moment, in that season. And it just ended up, obviously they didn't take the role, and all parties were disappointed, right? But it's you got to honor where you're at. There's no point going to into this big leadership role when deep down you want to be home at 5 to, do bedtime, bath time, dinner time, or help out your partner with a young baby, right? And then I had another situation the other day, which actually was someone who was really self-aware. It was this head of AI role, and an offer was coming. And as fate would always have it, so literally I said to them on the Friday, by the way, an offer's coming. So, congratulations. And then it got to Monday. What are the chances of this? They found out that their wife was pregnant. And within a split second, they called me first thing Monday morning and they said, Georgie, I can't accept this. Again, because this role was such a massive role. It was leading a brand new team on a brand new project, and they knew exactly what that role would mean. And they felt like it wouldn't have been fair to the business, to their wife, to their unborn child, for them to work, long hours, 5 days a week in the office to get this product and this new tool off the ground, even though they were so excited by it and they really wanted it, but they knew what their values were and what was more important to them in this season and time, and it was family. So they decided to stay where they were. And this is really, really important because, again, when you're thinking about a career pivot or switching roles or whatever you're thinking about doing, stepping up into leadership, if you don't know these foundational values and what's important to you, you could end up taking something and later regretting it and be even more miserable. So really, really important to think about that. And like I said, the company is also thinking this as well. It's like, we know what we need this person to do. We know what this expectation is. We know what we stand for as a business. We're not a company that values balance, and you're not going to be signing off at 3:00 to go and pick your kids up. So if that's not what you want, don't come and work here. And I feel like companies need to be more transparent, and people also need to be more self-aware to be like, is this a match? But companies will be assessing it. So make sure, on the other hand, as the candidate, you're also doing the same thing. But it's so, so important. The fourth point that I don't think people realize enough is that people haven't got time to read your whole resume back to front, right? They might skim it at best, or they might not even read the resume, trust the recruiter so much, read the few bullet points that we send across of why we've shortlisted this candidate, and they might not even seen your resume. So don't assume that the hiring manager has seen your resume. If they have, they've likely just skimmed it and seen the few points. But this is really important. You have to understand in your resume, you have to know it inside out, back to front, right? You have to know what outcomes did you achieve? What are some really key metrics that you achieved, that you delivered on in your previous organization? And you need to have compelling stories around this, right? Too many people go into an interview and they waffle on about a role that's completely irrelevant, right? Stick to the job that you're interviewing for and think about, okay, what has been relevant in my previous roles that I can now offer this new organization? What perspectives, what information can I offer? What value can I bring to this business that's relevant from my previous experience? But don't assume that people are literally just going to know your resume and just say, hey, Pam, tell me about the last role that you did with XY company. Like, what happened there then? They might not even know. So it's your job to pick out the key things that you really want to bring forward and make sure the hiring manager really, really understands the value and the outcomes that you can bring and you've achieved. It's so important.
I completely agree. And do you know what? If you actually think about interviewing in a really simplistic way, it should actually be one of the easiest things in the world, because ultimately you're sitting and you're storytelling about your own lives and your own experiences. Yeah. But for whatever reason it is, really, it is obviously a skill, and it's something that we don't get to practice every day. So that is really important. It's like, know your own skills and experience, and really take the time to actually think about your own career journey, because what will often come up is the fact that you've actually experienced and gone through a lot more than you actually give yourself credit for. But I think just really have 3 to 5 examples, and do you know what it comes back to? Storytelling.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of a lost art. If you think, back in the day, our grandparents used to sit around and that's what they used to do. They had big families, they would sit, they would tell stories. We're sort of losing that art of conversation a little bit in modern times, because everyone's too busy staring and, looking through reels on TikTok or whatever it's called, whatever the cool kids use these days. But the art of storytelling is so important, it's so powerful. And I would urge you, right, if you have a partner, if you have a family, sit down at the dinner table and speak to each other about your day. That is practicing storytelling. That is getting used to telling stories. It's getting used to speaking about your experience, what you've experienced, what you've saw, what you've done through the day. These are skills that are so powerful for life in general, never mind when it comes to interviewing. But ultimately, interviewing is the art of storytelling about your own life experiences, but pulling out a few core examples and thinking about problems that you came up against, because people want to hear about, the sticky points. They want to hear about the objections you came up against. They want to hear about how you overcame some of the problems that you experienced. Think about a program of work or a project or something that you've delivered on, but also think about all the sticky points in between and what your contribution was to overcoming that, moving forward and getting something through to delivery. That's the type of compelling stories that interviewers really want to hear. Yeah. That's showcasing so many different skills within, one question that you're answering. So you are right. You have to really think about your resume and your experiences that you've had in your career on a deeper level and turn it into a story. Turn it into something interesting. Tell your wife, tell your husband, let's see if if their eyes light up a little bit when you're trying to make something sound really interesting. And ultimately remember that what you're actually doing is that you're selling yourself. So you need to really be able to present yourself in a really compelling way.
Can I tell you why also this is really important about storytelling? Because this is what's going to set us apart from AI. If you rely on ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other AI platforms to write your resume, you're not going to know your resume. Right? It's now been proved to say if AI writes something, you don't remember it. So I would encourage people, use AI to help you write the format, but do not let AI write your resume. Because if you get challenged on something or something comes up, if someone hasn't just skimmed your resume, someone's actually read it and gone, hey, Pam, can you tell me about how you've 10x results on that sales campaign and what you learned through that process? And you're like, what did I write again? You need to be very, very aware. I'm seeing a lot of resumes now with the same wording, with the same just certain languages being used. And I'm thinking, did you write that or did AI write that? You need to know your resume inside out. You cannot let AI write your own resume, because if you get challenged on something and you don't know what you've written, because you won't recall it unless you write it yourself. That's not a fact. They've proven that. So I would say when it comes to using AI, when it comes to your own resume, yes, sure, let it sort of help guide you in terms of like the format and how it should be laid out, but write it yourself. Know your work, okay? Don't let AI write it. I think that people are going to get caught out a lot if they just solely rely on AI putting things together for them. They're not going to remember it inside and out. And it's the storytelling that's going to set you apart as well. So that's a really key point. I just thought about that there because I'm reading a lot of resumes right now that all look and feel the same. The fifth point is they're watching how you handle pressure. So when it comes to certain tricky questions, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Okay, it's how you respond. And at the end of the day, interviews, they're also sort of designed to test you a little bit. They're not meant to just be sort of like sit, let's just have a cup of tea and a chat. They want to see how you react, especially if you're stepping up into a leadership role, okay? Because companies are looking for emotional intelligence. And one of those key points in emotional intelligence is how you can regulate yourself. So if you come up against a tricky question, remember power of the pause. Don't just ramble and say the first thing that comes to your mind. Just say, that's a really interesting question. And then speak. But I think too many people, when it comes to tricky questions, trip over their words or don't think through the answer. It's okay to pause. And that pause can be incredibly powerful. And what you say next matters more than what you actually say. But it's a test in interviews. So there will be a couple of interesting questions thrown in there, but they're more assessing how you handle the pressure as opposed to just what comes out your mouth. Would you agree with that?
I do completely agree. And I also think that when you're in an interview scenario, sometimes you might be fielded a question that you are not fully sure of what they mean. That's okay. Don't start answering it straight away. What I would recommend is, we call it REOC. We used to call it REOC, right? But if you are fielded with a question that you don't quite understand, welcome that question. Bring it in. There's a W. Reassess it. So feed it back to the interviewer and say, right, so you've just asked me this. Then isolate. Say, from that, I'm thinking two different ways at the moment. Would you like me to answer it this way, or do you mean this? So isolate what the 2 points are, where the confusion lies for you, and then reassess it. Get them to be explicitly clear on exactly what their intentions are behind that question, what they're looking for from you to answer. And then you go ahead and close out what it is that they are looking to hear from you in the best way that you can. So if you're fielded with something that you don't understand, seek the clarity before you answer it. Otherwise, you're going to take the interview off on the completely wrong tangent, and you might give the best answer in the world, but to the wrong question.
Correct.
So don't be afraid. If you think something, don't freeze. Don't start panicking in your head. Just say, right. Just so that I'm clear, this is what you've just asked. This is what I'm thinking you're looking for me to answer. Am I right? Or would you prefer it this way? So just gain the clarity.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it comes back to you're in a conversation. It is an interview, but you also have a right to be there, and you have a right to gain clarity on certain things that you don't understand. And similarly, if it's just going back to what we spoke about at the start of the podcast, if you don't know the answer to a question, please don't panic.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We all don't have the answers to everything.
And sometimes no one has a clue about what corporate jargon means. You know, sometimes what
was it? It was something really, really simple. I'm sure it was Kyle. He had a candidate that was interviewing for something. And Greenfield projects.
Yeah,
this poor guy had worked within the one organisation for about 22 years. He was looking for a new role, and the interview session was focused around Greenfield projects. And the poor guy didn't know what Greenfield was, and he was just answering questions instead of just saying, "Hands up, Mr. Interviewer."
God knows what he said to that.
What the hell is a Greenfield? Is it someone that's just mowed the lawn and it's looking like a really greenfield? You know, it's so simple, but he was too nervous and scared to say, oh my gosh, I don't know. But just ask, it's okay.
I know, this is the thing, it's like, and I think as an interviewer as well, don't forget that this is a nerve-wracking experience with people, and it's also your job to make people feel comfortable. But again, interviews are also designed to test us as well, especially if you're going in for more of like that leadership role where the stakes are high, and you're going to be dealing with high pressure situations. You're going to be dealing with stakeholders that have got high expectations. So they are going to test you a little bit. So be prepared for that. But like you say, don't ramble, clarify the question. Okay, understood, pause, and then respond in a calm, clear manner. The next point I want to make, point number 6, is coachability is key, right? Like, the biggest red flag is if you get asked, why did you leave that organization? And you straight away immediately jump into that it was nothing to do with you. It was your manager, or you start like slagging organizations and past employers. That is a massive, massive red flag. So I think that when you're in interviewing, always bring it back to you. Okay, don't start talking or bad mouthing about your ex-employer or other co-workers that you worked with. Like, that is such a big red flag for people, such a big red flag. So coachability. So think about things that if something didn't go the way you wanted it to go, that's okay. What did you learn from that? That's what people want to know. They know that no one gets it right all the time, right? You know, if you're somebody that is a developer and you've just shipped a product and it didn't quite go the way that you all planned and you have to go back to the drawing board, like, but okay, that's great. But what did you learn from that? You know, it's not about them blaming, oh, well, you know, the testing team did a terrible job here, or the design team didn't do well here, and I did everything well. No, like, take it on board. And if you get a question fielded to you that's like, you know, tell me about a time when you failed, or tell me about a time where you had to pivot, or tell me about a time that things didn't go the way that you expected, there's always a lesson from that. But the importance is to show that you don't see failure as that's it. You see failure as an opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow, and that you're coachable through it. Because the biggest red flag you can ever give an interviewer is if you start blaming other people of why something didn't go the way it was supposed to go. So that's a really big one, because I feel like a lot of candidates have fallen slightly flat because they've said something in an interview that's kind of made someone go, oh, okay, that's a bit funny how they just sort of looped that person in. That wasn't necessary. They want you to take self-responsibility and ownership of everything, even if it generally wasn't your fault. You still don't throw other people under the bus if something hasn't gone to plan in an organisation or on a project. So it is a big red flag. Anything to add on that?
No, I think you're quite right. I think there's an emotionally intelligent blend of being able to speak your truth, but also retaining an element of professionalism when you're entering the job market. So please do keep that in mind. I think it is really important to remember that, you know, you're a professional. You're interviewing for professional jobs with clients in a very professional space. So I think, you know, there's definitely a balance, and with your own personal experience, I think, you know, just be really intentional about making sure that you're being future led in terms of what potentially you're looking for in your next step, rather than focusing on why you're leaving somewhere.
Exactly. 100%. And the final point is your human skills are your secret weapon. This is so important. I can't stress this enough. Like, generally every day, what do we keep on getting asked for? Georgie, Pam, Team CH, we need someone who is adaptable, who's resilient, who's a great communicator. These are the skills.
Yeah.
These are the skills that people are really looking for. And it's not just about job titles anymore. It's about skills. It's about who you are, what you can offer. And it's not just all tech and hard skills anymore. It is these human skills that are going to set you apart. And I believe that the whole emotional intelligence piece, self-awareness, empathy, all of these skills are going to be needed now more than ever. So don't neglect them.
Confidence, assertiveness.
I know.
Honestly,
I know.
If I can just give a really quick example, I had the most perfect candidate interview for a role. Granted, there were one or two things that she didn't quite have the experience in. I'm talking someone that is intelligent, sophisticated, so smart, would have had the most insane work ethic, would have got up to speed within an instant and executed and delivered. I had absolutely no doubt in that. However, she struggled to articulate that and get that across. And I could tell that it was quite deep-rooted in her own personal journey, that she more than likely hated bigging herself up for fear of coming across as arrogant. And she was not the type of person that could ever have came across as arrogant in her life. But by holding back and not wanting to sell herself, she wasn't able to instill that confidence in the client that she was a woman for the job. She just wasn't. And I did my best to sell her for her. But it just didn't quite get it over the line. And honestly, I've sat with it the past couple of weeks, because I think if she would have been able to just big herself up and just transfer that across the client to say, give me this, I will do this, and I will do this well. Because eventually she was able to say it to me, but almost through a laugh. And it was almost like she even felt uncomfortable saying it to me. So you need to work on your softer skills. You need to work on your self-confidence. You do need to work on your EQ. These are the types of skills that are going to become more and more important as AI starts taking off. More jobs get made redundant. You know, if you want to be moving up, if you want to be able to get onto these really exciting future-led projects, if you want to secure your place in the future of work, you have to work on your softer skills. And do not be scared of coming across as arrogant. You won't.
Listen, the first part of my whole book is on exactly this.
Really?
Because you can have all the strategies in the world. I can say, go and learn this AI tool, go and do this. But if you don't believe in yourself first and foremost, you'll never take the first step. It all starts with self. It's the foundations that everything else is built on. So this is something that I continue to work on every day. I know it's something you've worked on really hard throughout your career as well. And anytime something's new to me, I know that I'm going to just suck, right? I'm not going to be good at it. But that's okay. I'll keep working on it. And over time I'll get better, right? But you've got to work on these quote unquote softer skills, which aren't softer skills. They're hard skills really. But practice speaking in front of the mirror, practice speaking in front of a friend, go and do a public speaking course, go and get a coach, go and get a mentor. These are things that you cannot neglect anymore.
Nope.
Because if you don't work on yourself, then everything else is just, it's not going to get noticed. You're not going to get the opportunities. You're just going to be looked over for that next promotion or that next project is kicking off. Your name's not going to come up, right? You need to be thinking about this now more than ever, because we're not just being assessed on how many skills we tick. We're being assessed on how we show up. And that all starts with presence, with clarity and confidence. So it is incredibly important. But that is today's episode.
Oh, done already.
We are done. They are the 7 things that you need to know that really does, I guess, stop people from securing the job offer. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague or anyone that just needs a little bit of a confidence boost or someone who's on the job market right now. And the biggest gift that you can give me is hit the subscribe button. It really, really does mean the world to me. So thank you for listening. And Pam, as always, great conversations today. I always enjoy our little paired up podcast.
It's been a joy.